Have you ever made a decision based on someone else's negative comments or views about you? Because I think I may have. Recently, I have realized that this comment may have influenced some really big decisions in my life that I am just now starting to unpack. Hey, y'all, welcome back to Journey with Quincy, where we embrace the journey and rediscover our magic. I'm Quincy, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about a decision I made about 25 years ago. It's a decision that I thought that I had come to terms with. And recently, something happened that made me stop and reflect on it again. This reflection is about how sometimes someone's words, especially the negative ones, can influence the choices we make, how they can stick with us, but how to reflect, process, and rediscover our journeys along the way. So, a few days ago, I was out to brunch with my 10-year-old niece and my 8-year-old nephew. We were laughing and talking, and out of nowhere, he asked me, TT, when are you going to have more kids? And I was like, I'm not having more kids. And he's like, why? I was like, because I'm kind of old and Dewan is already grown, and I didn't want to have kids that far apart. So, and I didn't want to have more children. So he asked me, why did I never want to have more children? And to be honest, I wasn't sure how to answer that. So the conversation kind of just ended there with me telling him I just didn't want to. But after taking them home and on my way home, and actually a couple of days after that, I've really been reflecting on why didn't I want to have more children? Because the truth is, there have been moments when I thought about having a daughter. And there were times that I imagined my son having a sibling. But for years, I have told myself the same thing. I don't want to have more children. And now I'm asking myself, is that really what I've wanted? Or is that just something that I've been telling myself for a long time? And when I started to journal and reflect back to events that have happened that may have made me get to this point, I think about a decision I made when I was 18. At the time, I was a new mom. I was feeling very disappointed in myself. I felt like I'd disappointed my family. I was not walking across the stage with the rest of my class, and I actually felt a lot of shame about it. And one of my family members made this comment to me. She said, now that you've been pregnant, you will probably have a baby every year. And I think I unconsciously told myself that that was not going to be my story. And it's not like I had planned it or thought it all the way through. I just think it was a reaction to fear and judgment and shame. And that was what influenced that decision. I think I was trying to prove her wrong and to avoid feeling more shame. Because face it, society says that single motherhood is something that should be shameful. And I think that that decision has followed me in ways that I didn't even realize, because when I think about my relationships, that decision absolutely influenced those, because I would not date men who still wanted to have children. And I remember in my early 20s, I was engaged. And when I first met this man, he did not want to have more children. And I thought that was perfect. He fits in my story. And the more time he spent with my son and I, the more I think he started to change his mind. He said that he loved seeing me as a mom and that he can picture having a family with me. But the problem was, I was still stuck in that mindset that I was not having more children. And I think what started to happen was that I started to sabotage that relationship based on that. And I say that I started to self sabotage because he was such a good guy. He literally was perfect on paper. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some other things that influence that breakup that led to that breakup. But the biggest thing was that for me in that at that time. It probably wouldn't have worked out in the end, but at the time, that was the thing. He wanted to have more kids and I didn't. So like I said, I think I started to sabotage that relationship because he was a great guy. And I did not want to be the girl who gave up such a good guy because I didn't want to give him a baby, something that society says a woman is supposed to do. That's our job, right? So after dating him, I stopped dating men altogether who didn't have children at all. So now I made the decision that I would only date baby daddies, single fathers. So I decided that I only wanted to date men that had children. That way I wouldn't have to be responsible for having them for them. And even with that, I still ran into the same problem. Once the relationships got serious enough and they started thinking about the future, the topic of children would come back up. And because of that silent vow that I made with myself at 18, it continued to influence my choices, and those relationships would fade. Looking back, I wonder what could have been had I been able to let that mindset go or even question it. But I was doing what I thought was best for me at the time. But still reflecting on all of that, I also find a lot of gratitude because I think about the life I've been able to give my son, and he's never had to experience the struggles that I experienced with my parents raising four children. I also think about my nieces and nephews and how I've been able to show up for them in the ways that I have been able to, including taking them in when need be. Being a mom and an aunt are still the greatest joys of my 43 years. And even though I'm just now unpacking all of these feelings, I'm starting to be grateful for the beautiful life I have built, even with all of the complexities. But there were definitely moments that I wondered, and I think about what it would have been like to have more kids, and I think about would those relationships been different had I made different choices. But talking to my therapist, I'm learning that it's okay to hold space for the what ifs. They don't take away from my life. They just remind me that growth and reflection are always part of the journey. So these are some things that she told me to reflect on. Even with the decisions I've made, how do they influence my life today? What emotions like fear or pride might have played a role in those decisions? Um, can I hold space for reflection and growth while honoring what I built? And I would like for you guys to reflect on those same things. Is there any comments or influences that people may have had that made you make certain choices that you may regret today? But anyway, thank you for letting me share this piece of my journey. And if it resonates with you, please comment, like, share, definitely subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.